What's going on, Mad Maniacs? Welcome back to Mad About Disney, and I just got back from Walt Disney World. And on my trip, I was one of the first groups of public people, besides the media event, to see two of Disney's new fireworks spectaculars, and I have some thoughts on them. But instead of doing a video just on that as a whole, I thought it would be fun to do a tier list of every Disney nighttime show and parade that I have seen during my lifetime, and I'm not counting any ones that I have seen like a video of. I'm only doing the ones I've seen in person that I have recollection of. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to start with Minnie's Wonderful Christmas Time Fireworks. So this is a fireworks show that premiered at the 2019 Very Merry Christmas Party. I got to see it, and yeah, it's I'm starting with this one because some people might not even say it's worth doing for this list because it's just a Christmas show, but I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much that I think it's worth putting on this list. It made great use of projections, but the actual fireworks themselves were really good too. And overall, the show was really well done. I thought it flowed really well and it was really well put together. So because of that, I'm going to put that show in the B tier category. Next up, we have Rivers of Light, the old Animal Kingdom nighttime show. This show came and went. I don't remember when, but it was probably within the last 10 years or so that it both opened and closed. This show is pretty bland. It was relatively well done. I enjoyed it when I saw it once. I don't think I ever felt the need to go see it again. It was generally pretty unmemorable. And because of that, I'm going to put it in D because it wasn't actively bad. But there really wasn't that much to love, in my opinion. Next up, Fantasmic. This is the first big boy of this list. I'm referring to the Walt Disney World version of Fantasmic for this one. This is a very popular show. A lot of people really like this show. Personally, I think it's okay. It's kind of one of my hot takes in this video. I think that overall as a show, it's entertaining. I don't think it's worth doing every time you're there. I think it could definitely use an update. But I think it's still good. It's enjoyable. It has great music. It's got some iconic scenes and stuff like Sorcerer Mickey and all that. So because of that, I will be putting Fantasmic in the C tier. Next up, I have Disney Illuminations. Now, this is not Illuminations Reflections of Earth at Epcot. This is Disney Illuminations, the fireworks show I saw at Disneyland Paris when I was there in 2017. Now, this show was pretty good. I only saw it once in person, but I generally enjoyed it. It didn't impress me or anything. It was a pretty standard fireworks show. There's not much to add other than that, so I will be putting this show into the C tier. Now, the show you thought I might have been talking about, Illuminations, the Epcot fireworks show that ran for about 20 years, that was replaced only a year or two ago. This was a classic. A lot of people really liked this show. Personally, I think it was good. I think it was time for an update as much as I love the show. That's not saying that the updates are necessarily lived up to what we hoped it would be, but I did enjoy this show. I thought the fact that it could be viewed from anywhere around the World Showcase was a great touch. I really liked the globe. Definitely slow at sometimes, but definitely really great at sometimes, and the finale is one of my favorites. So because of that, I'm going to be putting Illuminations into the B tier category. Next up, we have Epcot Forever, which is the temporary replacement show for Illuminations while they worked on Harmonious, which is the new show. So Epcot Forever is a temporary show, so it didn't run for more than a year or so. It was intended to just be a temporary show, so it didn't have the sort of budget or production scale as some of the other shows. With that being said, I think it's fine. I think it fits the mold pretty well. It did a great job of paying tribute to Epcot, had some great musical tributes and things like that, but ultimately it isn't the most fantastic show ever. But contrary to what a lot of people believe, I think it's actually, it's a solid show. I'm going to be putting it into the C tier because I actually don't think it is as bad as a lot of people say. I think it was perfectly fine, and I enjoyed it when I saw it. Now, here we go. Harmonious. This is the new show that premiered at Epcot. It premiered October 1st officially, but I got to see a soft open of it on September 30th, 2021. I really didn't like it at first. Alright, that's a bit of a stretch. I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't love it. I thought it was fine. And I've reflected on it a lot, especially its comparison to Illumination, the show that it ultimately replaced, even though technically it replaced Epcot Forever. Really, it's the replacement for Illuminations. I think it has some aspects that are better. I think that the music generally is better. While the finale isn't as good, generally the music is better. I do like the segments that used foreign language versions of classic Disney films with countries set around the World Showcase, like Coco. But generally, I think it's an okay show. It doesn't have a great flow to it, in my opinion. It feels a little bit broken up at times, and I think the fact that it only can be viewed as a whole from half of the World Showcase, basically, because of the way the barge is set up, you have to be looking at it head on. So either from the main entrance to the World Showcase or the Japan, America, Italy side of the World Showcase are really the only good spots to view it. If you get a spot on the sides, you're not going to get the same experience. And because of that, I'm going to put Harmonious in B. I actually think it's a pretty good show. I think it'll grow with me on time. I'm not going to judge it too harshly right now in my first viewing. I think it does have the potential, and I think ultimately it's no worse than Illuminations was. It has some pros, it has some cons, but overall, I think it's actually a decent show. I'm not too upset about it. I think it's fine. So next up we have Wishes. So Wishes was the old fireworks show that Happily Ever After got replaced by. It was the show I grew up on, and I love the show with my whole heart. I've said for years it's my favorite fireworks show, but I'm going to try to look at this unbiasedly. A little bit of personal opinion is going into this. Ultimately, I'm going to put Wishes in A, and I'll explain that a little bit. So, Wishes is a great show. It has top-tier music and top-tier fireworks, but when we're comparing it to some of the other shows that are going to be on this list, specifically Happily Ever After, which is what replaced it, the lack of projections just, takes a notch away from it. I really love Wishes, but it wasn't the perfect show. It was my favorite show growing up, and it will always hold a very special place in my heart, and I think it's a lot better than a lot of the other shows we've seen recently. Obviously, right now on this list, it's the highest ranked one here. But I really loved Wishes. I will continue to love the show. If an iteration comes back at some point, I would love to see that, because I think the music and fireworks alone were great. I think if they were to add some projections, it would be a fantastic show. Alright, so the next two are obviously the current big debate amongst Disney fans, and I don't think it'll be any surprise to any of my viewers that Happily Ever After is S tier. This show was the pinnacle of Disney nighttime entertainment. It had projections, it had fireworks, it had music, it had story. The story connected the entire show extremely well. It flowed extremely well and had really great meaning that I think a lot of Disney fans grew a strong emotional attachment to. The finale sequence, starting with Go the Distance and the Mufasa voice tie-in into the chorus version of Happily Ever After, is beautiful. It was an absolutely amazing way to end a day at a Disney park. I think a lot of people really connected with this show and loved this show. And because of that, it's what I consider to be the perfect Disney show. If there was a tier above S, it would be going in it, because this is the pinnacle of Disney nighttime entertainment. And I do think that the show should return somewhere at some point. If it is truly done at Walt Disney World, I really hope Disneyland gets it, because they could use a new show, and I think that this show would be enjoyed by a lot of the fans out west. And now we have Happily Ever After's predecessor, Enchantment, which I have had some days now to reflect upon it before making this video. And I stand by my statement that I am going to put this into the D tier. Now, I will say, before we get to the end of this video, there is nothing going in E and F, because of all the shows I've seen, I don't think any of them are truly bad that I would never watch them or anything like that. So you will notice that it's skewed upwards, but obviously this is the bottom of my list. Part of the reason I dislike Enchantment so much is because I do believe it is truly a downgrade of Happily Ever After in every possible way imagined, and it infuriates me a little bit. One of my, I'll start by saying my two biggest gripes with this show. The first of which is the projections. When compared to the impeccable projection mapping technology that Happily Ever After utilized, that took advantage of every single shape of the castle to form the show to the castle, this show looks completely amateur. The projections are merely thrown onto the castle, and they don't use much projection mapping technology, which is the sort of things that we've seen, a decade and a half ago, which is fine. Those shows were good then, and it's, all right now. But when we can see how far technology has come, specifically with Happily Ever After, we can see how much of a downgrade this is. And for the 50th anniversary, I think fans were expecting a little bit more from, from Disney with this show that they pitched as this upgrade to Happily Ever After, when really they spent probably millions of dollars creating what was ultimately a worse show. And besides the projections, it just isn't as good of a show story-wise. The entire show feels like they copied and pasted thoughts from Happily Ever After, but didn't connect them. And it's very disjointed. It feels random, and because of how random it is, there really is no unifying theme throughout the piece like Happily Ever After had. And even the finale, because there isn't as much of this build-up in story and theme, doesn't have the same effect as Happily Ever After does. The original music is fine. It's definitely not as good as the original theme for Happily Ever After. It's a little repetitive and it doesn't have the same emotional weight, but it's fine. I also just thought it was very odd the references they used throughout the show as far as other movies. There was probably at least 3 or 4, if not 5 references to Disney and Pixar's Onward, which I didn't know anybody even watched that movie. And there was just an odd number of Pixar references in general, and I'm as big of a Pixar fan as the next guy, but it doesn't necessarily fit this theme of Disney Nighttime Entertainment, and I think it could have used a little bit more classic Disney. I feel like we didn't get a lot of classic Disney in this show, which is probably why it felt very out of touch and not very appropriate for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. So overall, I'm very disappointed with this show. I really hope that they work to do something so that after the 18-month 50th anniversary celebration, they can replace it with something else. If I have to watch this for the next 20 years, I will, because I love Disney fireworks, and ultimately the show is fine. It's not bad, it's just a downgrade, and it makes me sad that this is what replaced Happily Ever After, but ultimately it's fine. I just hope that Disney realizes that this show isn't what fans wanted it to be, and they either bring back Happily Ever After or, just do another one, start over. Finally, we're going to move into the parade segment. I'm not sure if my face is going to cover this, but right in here I'm going to squeeze the Christmas parade. It's a B-tier parade. It's a very good parade. Not much to say other than it's a lot longer than I thought it would be. This is, by the way, I think it's Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time parade. It's a great parade. I really love it, but it's nothing crazy. It's a great parade. If you're there for Very Merry's, you should see it. Nothing much to add. Main Street Electrical Parade, which has run at Walt Disney World and Disneyland, is definitely A tier in my opinion. It's a great parade. It's got classic music, great floats, the lighting spectacular. Overall, it's just kind of peak Disney Nighttime Entertainment. It's super classic, and there's not much I could say about that other than that. It's a really great show, and I do miss seeing any parade at Walt Disney World, but particularly this one. And finally, to round out the tier list, we have our last item, which is SpectroMagic. This is going to be a controversial opinion because a lot of people really like Main Street Electrical Parade, but SpectroMagic is S tier, in my opinion. This was a better parade than Main Street Electrical Parade. A lot of personal opinion goes into this. This is the parade that I grew up on, but I also think it has a better original soundtrack, and I think the floats are better. So personally, SpectroMagic is my favorite parade. And as you can see here in our S and A category, I have my top 2 fireworks show and my top 2 parades. So that kind of just works out like that. I really do hope that Disney brings back nighttime parades at some point in the future, because growing up that was a very key aspect to a Disney trip for me. And I do miss those parades. I don't care if it's Main Street or SpectroMagic or some new parade. Honestly, I'll take anything, but the nighttime parades were always one of my favorites, and I think a lot of people really like them too, because there would always be people lined up throughout the park to see these parades. So I hope at some point in the future Disney decides to bring them back, but who knows, because they didn't bring one back for the 50th anniversary, and you feel like if they were going to bring one back, they would have done it for that. But overall, that's my rankings. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of you, if you didn't get to go to the parks for the anniversary, have at least seen videos of Harmonious or Enchantment. So let me know what you think of these new shows. Personally, I think Harmonious is fine, and it'll do for the next couple of years. And to be quite honest, I think Enchantment is a downgrade, and I think that Disney can do a lot better, and I hope that they choose to do so. As far as the other shows, I think, I don't think I have too many hot takes. I think Fantasmic being lower than a lot of these other ones could be a hot take. And I think Illuminations and Harmonious being on the same tier could be a hot take, as well as Spectrum Magic over Main Street. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Give me a brief tier list or give me your S and A tier items. But with that, thank you so much for watching. The vlogs for the trip will be coming out soon. I just have to edit them, but I have all the footage, so I will be editing the vlogs from that trip. But I wanted to get this video out there while it was still relevant to be talking about these new shows. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all you Mad Maniacs in the next video.